What's up, Carnival Spirits? It's TJ, and I'm back up here on YouTube this morning with a little spur of the moment live stream. And let me just Carnival Spirits. It's TJ, and I'm back up here on YouTube this morning with a little spur of the moment. Yeah. So get rid of that. I don't expect many people to be joining me live this morning, but I did want to make a video, and at this point in time, recording a video and putting videos on my computer is not the best thing. I've got some computer issues, so live streaming and posting right to YouTube is the easiest way for me to communicate with y'all. So last night I had a business meeting after work, and I have today off, so I knew I could sleep in. I went out for a drink, and I ended up having 6, so I'm kind of hungover right now, and all I want to do is crawl back in bed and watch, the Lego Batman movie, and and recuperate. I feel like shit right now, but I can't because I've got stuff to do. This is my last day off before I leave for Washington, D.C. on Friday. And so today I'm going to the arts and crafts store to buy poster boards, and I'm going to start making signs for the Juggalo March. And some of you guys know, if you've been watching, that I went on vacation last month with my dad to Norway, and it was 2 weeks staying with some family and having a really positive bonding experience with my father. We did this trip 22 years ago when I was a teenager, and we brought his dad, so the 3 of us, my father and my grandfather, and we all went back to Norway, to where my grandfather was born and raised and immigrated from. We reunited him with his sister, and I got to see, where I come from. I'm 100% Norwegian. And so this year, this trip was of extra significance to me because it's been a long time. So 22 years ago is just before I discovered ICP. The 20th anniversary of the Great Malenko marks the 20th anniversary of me representing as a Juggalo. Because my first ICP show was 1997. It was actually September 3rd of 1997. Straight up 20 years, I've felt like I self-identified as a Juggalo of my own free will, based on the crazy euphoric experience of seeing ICP live in concert, and also the whole Malenko dropping and then getting pulled out of the record stores after only a few hours of being on the shelf over the Disney scandal. I serendipitously stumbled across the Great Malenko on the shelf moments before it was pulled off the shelf. So I actually have a copy of the Hollywood Records Malenko CD, because I was lucky enough to be introduced to ICP from my best friend when he played me the Riddle Box on Easter Sunday in 1996. Okay? But in 1995, that was the first time I went to Norway with my father and my grandfather. And when we did that, it was like, I don't know, one of the greatest things we ever did, because my grandfather passed away the following year. So it was the nick of time. We took advantage of this time, and it wasn't too late, and it was amazing. In '96, my father and I went back to Norway, and we brought my mom and my sister, and the whole family got to experience that trip. And, so 22 years later, my father and I did it again. And man, it's been a long, strange trip these past 20 years. Me following this this very strange and misunderstood group, ICP. This whole mythological lore of the Dark Carnival that I have bought into, quite literally, purchasing every Joker's card, every Sideshow album, comic books, T-shirts, jerseys, what have you, traveling across half the country for a 4-day festival to see mostly acts that I've never heard of, or retro kind of like somewhat washed up has been one-hit wonders, or real actually big impressive names and nostalgic artists that I grew up listening to, like Vanilla Ice and Bone Thugs and Harmony, back in the 2001 2002 gatherings. But I always went to those gatherings for ICP, and I attended the seminars. In 2001, there was a seminar, a mystery seminar, where Violent J came out into the room with no face paint on. It was the first time he had ever presented himself in front of Juggalos as Joe Bruce. And the whole room, maybe it was like 400 Juggalos in that room, erupted in the very first Joe Bruce chant ever. And I was in that room, and I watched and listened to Jay talk about the 6 that they were about to drop. He cried in front of us. Those days were magical. 2001. So I had already started writing my open thank you letter to ICP back then. I came up with the idea at the end of '99. In 2000, 2001, like I was creating bars. I was writing raps, because I figured, the cool thing to do is to make a diss track when you feel a certain way about someone, and you put them on blast to humiliate them, to shoot them down, right? When you're feeling your oats and you're like, yo, fuck you, to music, I mean, absolutely, music is a competitive sport of sorts, but I felt like that, I had heard, diss tracks to ICP even back then. There were some out there, I'm not talking about Eminem, but I wanted to make a thank you song, and I started writing that song, and it took me like 3 years to get it all written, and I didn't even record it until 2004, because I wasn't a rapper. I didn't have access to, first of all, there was no computer rappers back then. So I actually had to find a friend who had a 4-track in the studio, and he actually helped produce it for me. But that's not what this is about. My point is that there is a connection between Juggalos and ICP that transcends this this internet froth, this tabloid magazine TMZ mentality of following every move they make, all this frivolous shit, all these criticisms, all these eyeballs, just watching them like hawks and judging and and all this, like all these what do you call them? All these threads on the internet where people bicker with each other over what they feel and what they love and what they hate, and the disagreements, the pissing contests. You know, the bullying and it goes both ways too. Some people are professional victims and they don't know when to walk away. Okay. But what I'm trying to say is that I have anxiety over this march, and I don't think it's unwarranted because we don't know what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. But I have anxiety in general. And over the course of my 38 years on this planet, I've gone through several bouts with depression. You know, I've at one point I was considered, in high school when they give you those, I forget what they're called, predictions of, who's going to be who's going to be, what the fuck is that called? The predictions, right? Most likely to be. When I was in high school, straight up, when I was in junior high, I got best hair. I guess everyone voted me to having the best hair in junior high. But in high school, when we were graduating, in the yearbook, my name and my picture shows up under most likely to succeed. And, ain't that a crock of shit? It always pissed me off when my guidance counselors and teachers and parents told me how much potential I had. And I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do with my life. So I went to school for art. I went to school for graphic design because I loved art and I liked to draw and I liked photography and I was very interested in computer graphics. So that's what I studied. And then I got my BFA in visual communications and graphic design. And I was in college when I started to claim Juggalo. I mean, it was only my third day of college because I was a freshman. I remember I just graduated high school. Malenko came out during the summer of '97. Props to Nobody Man, who won one of our bundle packages on our free giveaways. And I guess I included in there a CD of some of the music I've made that I was handing out at a gathering, maybe 2009 or 2010. And on there's a song called Summer of '97. It's called Said and Done. And it's about the summer of '97. It's an autobiographical track about me and my best friend. It's me paying homage to my best friend and one of the greatest summers of my life. The summer I graduated high school, the summer I became a Juggalo, the summer I first saw, the summer the Great Malenko came out. We were celebrating life. We were on the top of the world. I had just become a man. I was 18 years old. And when I went to college, the third day of college, ICP came to Boston. So I went to the show. And when I came back to my dorm room, dripping with Faygo, some of my new friends, my dorm mates, people that lived in my dorm building, sitting out on the front stoop, smoking cigarettes. What the hell happened to you? And I was like, I just had the greatest fucking night of my life. And I smelled like root beer. And the rest is history, except I knew, and this was '97, so it took a couple of years, but a couple of years of going to clown shows. And I guess when the Amazing Jekyll Brothers came out, and there was only one more Joker's card left before the end would consume us all, I'm not saying that I actually believed that the world was going to end or some shit, but remember, this was pre 9/11. And all I knew is that this buildup to the 6 Jokers card was something that no one's ever seen before. And I felt very blessed to have stumbled across it, to be in the know. And when I went to my first gathering in 2001 to see all these other juggalos that were all on that same page, every single one of us was fucking excited about what we had discovered. And we were very, very much united in a Juggalo family sense. The Juggalo family magic came first, then the labels, the labeling, calling it a family, and then making it very marketable and packageable, and you know, and turning it into something that you can push, and then other people can be like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. That's when things started to change, because certain people felt a certain way about people, you know, joining in on this little exclusive magic that we were all feeling. And some people really kind of didn't seem like they understood the significance of the relationship between old school juggalos and ICP and their music and the Dark Carnival and all of our interpretations, whatever they may be, because they vary. I'm going around the world here, but I will come back to where I started. And that is that going to Norway with my dad allowed me to have a heart-to-heart, a conversation about who I am, what I'm all about, because I can't front. There's been a rift between my parents and I over this Insane Clown Posse shit. They didn't understand it. They didn't approve of it. But they recognized that as a young adult that I have to go out into the world, and they really can't protect me, and they had to trust me. But there were so many red flags for them, and I don't think they knew how to handle it. So they tried to, you know, pull that not under my roof shit. Now, unfortunately, I was under their roof at the time. They've thrown away some of my ICP t-shirts for not liking what they saw on them. And, you know, I remember one time I woke up from a nap. I was probably stoned. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute. I hear the Great Milenko playing upstairs, and my father was listening to my Great Milenko CD because I accidentally left it in the family CD player. So he was curious, you know what I mean? But we weren't communicating very well back then. And I clammed up and shut down and basically, you know, did my own thing. You know, I moved forward very stubbornly and decided that I knew what was best for me, and I was going to continue to follow ICP because I enjoyed it, because it made me feel good, because it was something that was a personal, magical experience that I shared with my best friend, who's my brother, not blood brother, but a dude that I've known since kindergarten. You know, a dude that I used to play with in elementary school, and our parents became friends because they were always, you know, dropping me off at his house and vice versa. And we had other friends. But ultimately, when my best friend Tommy introduced me to ICP, it on a whim, I was like, this is kind of cool. I like it. And you know what I liked about it? I liked it. What I liked about it was that it didn't take itself seriously. And you saw a lot of that in high school. I don't know what high school is like right now, but back in the 90s, man, there were jocks. You know, there were mean girls. You know what I'm saying? There were your pseudo hippies, you know, your wannabe, you know, deadheads. You know what I mean? Your I don't know, like whatever it was cool to listen to, jamming 94.5, Pink Floyd, you know, Led Zeppelin. Oh, Led Zeppelin, so good. I love Led Zeppelin. But I wasn't the type of person that, you know, thought negatively about someone if they liked some music that I didn't like. But there was a lot of that going on. And I'm not saying that I was bullied for being a juggalo in high school, because I wasn't a juggalo in high school. I self-identified as a Juggalo on my third day of college. The Great Malenko came out in the summer of '97. I graduated just a couple of months before that. So I made it out of high school before I had to put up with that shit. But when I was in college, I didn't even try to advertise ICP to my peers. Are you fucking shitting me? Why the fuck would I want to, you know, promote and rope other people in? Yeah, check out what I like, everybody. I'm wearing ICP. No, I didn't fucking wear that shit to school. Like, that was, I didn't even buy t-shirts back then, actually. You know what I mean? I didn't buy a t-shirt until, like, I don't know, the Bizarre Bazaar era. But I was a Juggalo. And I listened to the music. And I got stuff out of the music. And I wasn't really on any social media. There was none back then. So it was a very intimate experience for me and my best friend and the Wicked Clowns and the thoughts in my head. So let me back up. One minor point I wanted to say is that I wasn't bullied for being a Juggalo in high school, but I was bullied in high school. I was a sensitive kid, and I don't know. There were a couple people that bullied. They bullied me. They bullied others. The thing that sticks out in my mind the most was my mom's father was a farmer in Minnesota, and he had passed away already by high school. And you know, I got his farmer's hat, a red ball cap that had a patch on it that said Funks G Hybrid, which is the company that he bought his corn seeds from, because he had the cornfields. And so you can imagine that my dead grandfather's farmer's hat had some pretty significant sentimental value to me. And one day, standing out in front of the high school, my bully grabbed my hat off my head and ran into the school. And, you know, when he threw it back at my feet, he had emmed it. I don't know if kids still do that shit, but you know what emming a hat means? It means he took the brim of the hat and he crushed it in the middle, and then crushed it like that and made it into the shape of an M. But this hat was so old that it didn't just like fold into an M. He actually broke the material and he severed the brim, and he ruined it forever. Okay? My bully never actually punched me in the face or gave me any Indian burns, but it was more psychological, and it was more humiliation, and it was more like, you know, like on some mean girl shit, you know? So yeah, I mean, I was devastated, and, you know, and I've got a lot of issues that I have been sorting through my adult life. You know what I'm saying? Some developmental issues that I've acquired throughout, you know, my existence as a kid. And I tell you, most of the worst experiences I had didn't even involve that bully. It was actually with situations that came up with my actual friends backstabbing me, and kind of I don't know, I got made into a scapegoat. You know what I'm saying? They accused me of doing shit I didn't do, spread rumors. You know what I mean? So I was in a really low place back in '96. You know, I had lost a lot of friends, and I felt like I felt like, I don't know, when you're just a kid and your world just completely gets turned upside down. All I can say is that when my best friend, and I guess I shouldn't call him my best friend back then, but he became my best friend again. We were close in kindergarten, but like we were kind of separated throughout high school because I was in high honors classes and he was in guided learning classes. He had dyslexia and stuff, you know what I'm saying? He was kind of a troublemaker. I kind of didn't make as much trouble. I didn't get caught for as much trouble. So, but once we graduated high school and when he played ICP for me, it wasn't just the music that lit me up. It was his friendship, It was this guy that was like, hey, TJ, fuck those assholes. Let's go listen to some Pantera. Let's go listen to some Ozzy or some Guns N' Roses. Ooh, check this out. You'll never believe what this is. And he plays me, a little something, something. Makes me laugh. You know what I mean? And, he really helped pick me up from a low place. And he did it by sharing ICP's music with me. So really, I mean, that was my introduction to this shit. And after I had taken the SATs for the second time, because I fucking shit the bed the first time, I wanted to treat myself to some new music. And I went out and I bought Iron Maiden's Greatest Hits, double disc, Best of the Beast. And I bought the Riddle Box. You know what I mean? I used to listen to the Riddle Box and I laughed and laughed. And anytime I had to give somebody a ride in my car, I would play them the Riddle Box. And just those first 5 songs, man, Toy Box, Chicken Hunting. I would do it just to watch their expression on their faces. I wasn't trying to like get them to like it. It almost amused me if they didn't like it. But most people didn't know how to feel about it. They ain't never heard no shit like that before, And the cool kids, they really cared a lot about looking cool. So of course, no one wanted to listen to any music that was stale. You know what I mean? It's all about the cool music. You got to listen to cool music if you want to be perceived as cool. But being a Juggalo for me wasn't about how other people saw me. I didn't care how people saw me because I already felt like people saw me the way they wanted to, whether it was real or not. I had people looking at me like, oh, fuck him. He's a thief. He's a jerk. He did this. He did that. Because they're believing lies that were spread by people I thought were my friends. So I had a lot of trust issues back then. You know what I'm saying? And my best friend really helped me out by being my best friend. And when we went to see ICP for the first time, our wigs flipped. Let's go again. Holy shit, they're back. Oh my God, they're playing in Rhode Island. From September 3rd, 97 to the end of the year, I saw ICP 3 times. In 1998, I saw them 3 times again. Now in 99, that's when I bought a plane ticket to St. Louis or Louisville or whatever, however you say it, Lowville, because they had this meeting spot where if you showed up at this record store street corner, they give you a free CD, and that was going to be Psychopathic Riders Dumpin'. But they canceled that at the last minute, and I was asked out with a plane ticket and no meetup. So, and the reason they did that is because they didn't think it out, and this meetup was like in December, and it was going to be too cold to have a bunch of juggalos standing around at a record store. And I think that's where the gathering came from, because the very next year in 2000, they had their first annual gathering. Now I was down to go to this record store and get a free copy of Dumpin', but because I was in college I could not attend the first gathering of the Juggalos. I just couldn't do it. Because college wasn't easy for me. I kind of almost failed out my first year. And then I spent the next 4 years making up for it. And, you know, so it took me 5 years to graduate, but I finally did it. And the 2 gatherings I did go to, 2001, 2002, yeah, I was in college those years. And I remember coming back from the 2002 gathering, it was hella storms. You know what I mean? Like a lot of ninjas' flights were delayed hour after hour after hour. And a lot of ninjas' connecting flights were fucked up because the storm was so strong in Illinois that they couldn't take off. So, you know, our flight from Illinois wasn't taken off, and we had to get a rental car to go to a different airport to get back to Massachusetts. And I had to be back because I had a final exam to come back to. No lie, I actually came back to Logan Airport in Boston with all my luggage from the gathering, and I took a taxi straight to my fucking test. And I took my very last college exam with my gathering of the Juggalos luggage sitting right next to me in the classroom. Made it happen. And I needed that test. Like I was a couple credits short of earning my diploma, and they bent the rules for me and let me walk during the ceremony and gave me a fake diploma. But you know, it's because I graduated. That happens in the spring. The gathering was in the summer, but I had to take a summer course to earn those credits to actually get my fucking degree. And so I needed to get to that test. It was serious. And so going back to this trip to Norway that I took with my dad, he had this bag of runes. I don't expect anybody to know what that is, but I mean, you guys saw the video I made a couple weeks ago with the Dark Carnival Tarot cards, the Dark Carnival Tarot deck. If you haven't, check that out. It's pretty fresh. I was going to mail these tarot cards to Miss Jinx and give it to her as a gift because she knows how to read them and use them. And she can get much more out of this than I can. And but now I don't have to do that because I'm going to see her this weekend at the March. So I'm going to be able to give this to her in person, which is really, really cool. It's going to be really cool just to meet Miss Jinx in person to begin with. Because, you know, we've never actually been to the same gatherings at the same time yet. Or shows or anything. So, but I'll show you guys what I have. My father gave me a copy of this. He had a book of runes, and I don't know if you can see with the glare. And what runes are they're small stones. So in this bag are the runes. Kind of think of them like dominoes. Each stone has a symbol written on it. I'm gonna read the preface of this book, so just to give you guys a brief understanding of what runes are, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because that's something that my father and I did every morning for 2 weeks while we were in Norway. We would pull a rune out of the bag, and we would read what its meaning was. Okay, and before I go further with my story, let me read to you guys real quick from the preface of this book, so that you can at least understand a little bit about what I'm about to say to you guys. All right, I got a bookmark in here that says echo chamber. And I wrote that down when it came to my mind, because I draw a blank sometimes. I forget what words are, and I forget things. And in previous Hangouts, I was trying to explain to y'all the reason why I am friends with people like Chuck Reeves, because he seemingly is on the complete opposite spectrum of a type of juggalo than I am. He's all about hate and muckraking and bullying and public shaming, everything that doesn't sit well with me, you know, from my own experiences as a kid. I'm not cool with that type of behavior, and the way that he is, you know, publicly trying to tear Psychopathic down with his vested interest in Magic Ninja Entertainment, and his extreme criticisms and you know, humiliation tactics towards juggalos and psychopathic artists and lots of rappers in general. Why would I keep someone like that in my friends list? The reason is because I don't want to live in an echo chamber. And what that means is that I don't want to surround myself with strictly just people who think like I do. I don't want to just see the same regurgitation, everybody patting each other's backs and agreeing with each other and saying the same thing and feeling the same way and reviewing with the same review, because then you don't get an accurate picture painted of what's going on. In other words, I'm not afraid of the opposing side of any situation. And I think it's healthy to, with bounds of reason, you know, at least know what the haters are saying. It doesn't mean I approve, and it doesn't mean I condone. And oftentimes I do need to unfollow and tune out. And I got to admit, I'm not watching many Chuck Reeves videos at all, because I don't have fucking time for that shit. And I know most of it is propaganda. And also, he is just trying to, you know, entertain, and he knows how to push buttons, and he knows how to get attention. So if you don't like what someone's saying, you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to watch them. And that's, I think, a lesson a lot of people haven't learned. But if you are only surrounded by people that think the way you think, then you are living in an echo chamber. And, you know, there's that saying, there's one person's side, and then there's another person's side, and then there's the truth. You know what I mean? So you got to take everything with a grain of salt. And so I'm going to read to you guys the preface of this book, the Book of Runes, which, by the way, they are Viking runes. And that's the reason why that we fuck with these runes, because that's my heritage. And you know, each rune, I'll show you real quick. Here's a little illustration of what all the runes look like. And here's a list of all their traditional meanings. But inside the book, there's really insightful things pertaining to each rune. There's poems in here. All right, without further ado, let me just give you guys in a nutshell, at least in the words of Dr. Martin D. Rayner, the professor of philosophy at the University of Hawaii School of Medicine. Okay, this is what he has to say about these runes. The runes, as described here, are healing, merciful runes. They will do you no harm. Learn their language and let them speak to you. Play with the possibility that they can provide a mirror for the magic of our knowing selves, a means of communication with knowledge of our subconscious minds. Remember that you are consulting an oracle rather than having your fortune told. An oracle does not give you instruction as to what to do next, nor does it predict future events. An oracle points your attention to those hidden fears and motivations that will shape your future by their unfelt presence within each present moment. Once seen and recognized, these elements become absorbed into the realm of choice. Oracles do not absolve you of the responsibility for selecting your future, but rather direct your attention towards those inner choices that may be most important elements in determining that future. So, how can random selection of marked stones tell you anything about yourself? Perhaps these runes interpretations are simply so evocative that each contains some point that can be accepted as relevant to some part of what's happening at the limits of consciousness any day, any time, to anyone. That is the easiest possibility to accept from a strictly scientific standpoint. Nevertheless, my own play with these runes, or his own play with these runes, have shown coincidence piled upon coincidence and apparently consistent appropriateness in each rune reading that is difficult to explain by the mechanisms that I've just described. Can there be other factors that distort the expected randomness of rune selection so as to provide a language by which the subconscious makes itself its explanations known? For myself, I maintain an open mind, reminding myself that observations should not be discounted simply because their underlying mechanisms have not yet been satisfactorily explained. So go ahead, try these runes. See if this oracle can mirror yourself, your subconscious process. But remember that such a link may take practice to develop. The rune interpretations offered in this work come from the meditations of a gentle, healing mind. They will speak to you of change and growth. The only negativity you will find here relates to the blockage of appropriate growth, while all the positive aspects are transcendent, transforming, and lead to breakthroughs. The subconscious you will encounter here is not a fearsome beast in need of obedience training. It is inner seeker after truth who must be helped to save us from ourselves. And there was a line here in the introduction that says, most people haven't heard of the word runes unless, maybe you're of Scandinavian descent, or you enjoy crossword puzzles, or you might know about them if you've read J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. But here it says, rune casters of old and their secrets were not recorded, or if recorded, did not survive. So we don't know what the original interpretations of runes are. They're lost to us. But in ancient times, runes and their symbols were employed by warriors bent on conquest. And the author here says it's his hope that the runes in their contemporary use will serve the spiritual warrior whose quest is doing battle with the self, the one whose goal is self-change. And that is my battle. I would say that I am, in a sense, a spiritual warrior. And being a part of CarnivalSpirits is one of the greatest things that I've ever done in the past 5 years, because it's allowed me to connect with juggalos on a more intimate level, rather than just hiding behind the keyboard and fighting with people that are either trolling or that are either expressing their opinions that differ from mine. And that's why you don't see me post on Facebook too much, and that's why I'm not on Twitter, because I don't have time or interest in that type of behavior. but I'm not afraid of words, and I'm not afraid of other people's negative opinions. And when you see the mob attacking, you got to wonder what those individuals are really all about. If you spend all your time trying to force your opinion down other people's throats, you got to wonder what their real motivation is. And if you think that you have to engage in that type of behavior, then you probably need to check yourself, because most of the time, in the 21st century, trolls are practically professional about it nowadays. Like they make it their business to fuck with people. And I have some friends that are masterful trolls, and they know how to push people's buttons and get them riled up. And some of them, they learned how to do that from other trolls. And so sometimes it's a lot of posturing and a lot of showing off, like, I'm trying to troll harder than this troll to impress this troll, that type of thing. That's what I think is going on sometimes. But so in Norway, we would every morning for breakfast, we would ask a question, whatever it is that we wanted to get insight on. And it's good to have a question in mind, because the runes are very poignant in their descriptions, and like that book said, it's not a fortune cookie, and it's not telling me what to do, but straight the fuck up, man. This morning I asked the question, what attitude do I need to take in preparation for the Juggalo March when I'm about to start making these signs to hand out to juggalos that don't have them? And we're about to march on Washington, and we're going to have a lot of media and a lot of attention on us. And so I asked the runes, what attitude do I need to take? And I reached my hand into the bag, and I pulled out this rune, and I flipped it and put it down, and this is what I saw. So with this rune that I cast, I then looked into the front of the book, and lo and behold, right here, I don't know if you can see that, if it was too blurry or not, but these runes are numbered 1 through 21, and I pulled number 17. And it's the movement rune. So I turned the page to the 17, and it's also significant that it was inverted, all right? Because the movement rune looks like this, but when I put it down, it was inverted. And there's actually a paragraph that talks about when the rune is reversed, not inverted, reversed. So I'm going to read to you guys the description for this rune and the insight that it has given me on my question about what attitude to take in preparation for this Juggalo March when I'm making signs today. And remember, it was reversed. So I'm going to read to you the regular description, and then I'm going to read to you what I actually have cast, which is the reverse description. But you need to get a foundation and understanding of what it is initially before you can kind of, take the reverse into consideration. So this is a rune of transit, transition and movement, of physical shifts. new dwelling places, new attitudes, or new life. It also signifies movement in the sense of improving or bettering any situation. There is about this rune a sense of gradual development and steady progress, with the accompanying notion of slow growth through numerous shifts and changes. This could apply to the growth of a business or a development of an idea. A relationship may need to undergo changes if it is to live and grow. Moral effort and steadfastness are called for when you draw movement. It's another of the cycle runes. Let it be said this way: as I cultivate my own nature, all else follows. This rune symbol is the horse, and it signifies a bond between horse and rider. Bronze Age artifacts show a horse drawing the sun across the sky. And here it's saying that you have progressed so far enough to feel a measure of safety in your position. And now it's time to turn again and face the future, reassured, prepared to share the good fortune that comes your way. The sharing is significant since it relates to the sun's power to foster life and illuminate all things within its light. Now, that's pretty dope, but remember, I cast a reversed movement rune, so this is what my answer is to my question. Movement that appears to block. Be certain that what you are doing or not doing is timely. There are no missed opportunities. You have simply to recognize that not all possibilities are open to you, and not all opportunities are appropriate. The opportunity at hand may be precisely to avoid action. If you are feeling at a loss, unclear about the need to act, consider what is timely to your nature, and remember, what is yours will come to you. Now, I don't know what tripped me up more, that description or the fact that this was number 17 out of 21 runes. Kind of at a loss for words. But I can tell you this. I think that at the end of the day, when it comes to this Juggalo March, cooler heads will prevail. And I don't really think that there's going to be many people showing up to this march who aren't serious about this march. And I have faith that my friends and I are going to have a positive experience at this march. Not really holding my breath for, Donald Trump to come waddling out and, give juggalos a big old-fashioned American pardon. But we are starting a dialogue, nation and worldwide, that there is a little bit of injustice happening here and that we ain't cool with it. So, these runes, it's something that I'm doing now because I've got a lot of, I've got a lot of concerns, a lot of things weigh heavy on my mind. And I know I come up on here and I bullshit with y'all and I chop it up with y'all. And sometimes I actually keep my personal, a lot of times I keep my personal situations and my personal feelings out of it because I'm podcasting and I'm not, and I'm not really here to air my dirty laundry out for y'all. I know a lot of people do that. And when I started as a Juggalo YouTuber, I was attracted to the conversations about the high interest area that we shared. And I was a little less interested when people got into their own personal shit, like, my dog shit on the lawn and my father is, stealing money from the kids, or, my car broke down, or I hate my job, or this guy said this mean thing to me on Facebook, What I'm more interested in is the conversations that actually pertain to the Juggalo culture that I am involved in. So, anyways, I'm kind of marrying the two right here because, you know, this March it's stepping outside of the normal conversation. Anyways, you know, we're no longer just talking about how we still love a CD that dropped 20 years ago, or how you know, Violent J has gone through, you know, numerous, what he's gotten fat, he's gotten skinny, like, you know, he's got a new girlfriend. Oh my God, he has a kid. Is he getting married? Now he's single again. Like, I mean, people are going to talk about that stuff because, let's face it, Kim Kardashian isn't for everybody, and we all need someone to focus our celebrity worship on. All right. And I know some of you guys have a hard time with sarcasm, but that's your issue. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying about this gangsta party conundrum, is that if you actually are one of those people that take everything literally, you're going to have a hard time in life. I recommend Google searching the word allegory. I recommend that you, I don't know, get some fucking therapy. And I'm not being facetious. I'm just saying that if things bother you a lot, you can only change you. You can't change the way other people act. And haven't we learned now from trial and error that when you argue with someone on the internet, no one ever changes their minds. No one ever actually, you know, gets enlightened when it becomes, you know, a shit flinging, name calling, like, I'm not going to let you talk. I'm going to talk over you. I don't want to hear what you have to say. And now I'm going to insult you because you deserve it, because you did something bad. So obviously you deserve bad things, and I'm going to be the bringer of bad things to you. That right there is childish behavior. And a lot of us juggalos are far from children at this point. I mean, I admittedly was 18 years old when I self-identified as a juggalo, but I was 17 years old when I stumbled across the riddle box. So this whole talk about the dark carnival and the magic and these coincidences in my life, it's all been kind of like on some other shit, you know? And like I was saying to Reverend Lastright in my live stream last Friday, you know, my father is a reverend and a minister, and he actually went into that field because he was in the Army. And when he signed up for the Army, he felt that maybe that was where he could best help, by going into the ministry. But he also felt that there was a little bit more to life than just reading, you know, ancient, you know, translated, you know, word of mouth into, you know, translated into different languages and out of date, you know, scriptures. So he went into psychology because that was a balance for him. And he recognized that, you know, well, my father's really smart, and, you know, I could go on and on about all the things that he's done and accomplished and learned and taught me. But one of the best things that he's done for me lately is he has accepted me for who I am, and recognized and accepted the fact that I have chosen to identify as a juggalo. And you could say that it's been tough to feel like you're not understood by your parents, Shout out to Snaps for the $2 super chat. Don't make juggalos look bad, Fair. Stop. Just stop. So my father has given me a copy of the Book of Runes, and he gave me my own set of runes that I am now using on the daily when I have a question about something that I'm going to embark on, or I have a decision to make and I just want a little bit of you know what I'm saying? Like, I really, really appreciate that from my dad. He actually just gave me a couple other books yesterday. He gave me this book here, which I'm going to read. It's Understanding, Casting, and Interpreting the Ancient Viking Oracle. So I'm going to learn more about the runes. And bless his heart, he also gave me this book here. It's called The Fool and His Scepter, which I guess talks about it's a study on clowns and jesters and their audiences. And so there's a chapter here, The Premise of the Fool. Order and chaos and the fool. The king, the hero, and the fool. The sovereign fool. You know? Characteristics of the fool. And it's like a history of clowns and how people have used them or been affected by them and their meanings throughout history. And he gave this book to me because he knows that I love ICP. And it feels really good to know he has my back. So that's really all I wanted to say today. And like I said earlier, I'm really hungover right now. And I've been kind of ignoring the chat. I got one eye down there, but I didn't mean to make a video to engage y'all. I came here to talk to you. And like I said, my computer is fucked. So live streaming is the easiest way for me to put a video out that doesn't have to live on my hard drive. And I'm thinking that, you know, my goal to become comfortable in my own skin and to be confident with my own, you know, identity as a man, as a, you know, not as a juggalo, but just me in general, like the confidence to speak publicly, to live my life like an open book, you know, to shed myself of these skeletons in my fucking closet, you know, to face my demons. One last thing I want to mention is that the bully that I had in high school that emmed my grandfather's hat, 10 years ago at my 10-year high school reunion, we both reconciled and became friends. Now, we're not Facebook friends. I don't even know if he's on Facebook, but we partied and we had drinks together. And I made peace with my high school bully. So just think about that when you're having an issue with someone, that there might actually be a way to find a connection with your so-called enemy in life. And we didn't really talk about the bullying, but I'm just saying that it's water under the bridge now. And it doesn't, I always remember it because it really did shape who I am today, those experiences. And that's why I'm not afraid of people like Chuck Reeves, you know, and Mad Max, two people I consider friends, that don't see eye to eye with me and some of my other friends like CPN, friends like Don Chaos, Cali Green 2 Fresh. This morning I saw a video from Juggalo 972. You know what I'm talking about. He works in the medical field. He's a wrestler. He uploads remasters of Juggalo albums, and he put a video out for us marchers that was very poignant and insightful. And you know, he's wishing the best for us. He can't go because he has obligations in his career, which is totally fine and understandable. Just like it's totally fine and understandable if you have a family and you've got kids to raise and you can't make that journey to Washington, D.C. There is no shame on not attending the march as long as you support the marchers. What there is shame on is if you don't support the marchers and if you condone the, what do you call it? Propaganda, the fear mongering, the unwarranted, you know what I'm talking about. You know, it bothers me, and I do admit to getting triggered from time to time when I see, you know, my friends so mean-spirited and so foul towards the one thing that literally thousands of people have credited to saving their lives, to helping them cope with this fucking brutal, harsh world that we live in. Chuck Reeves has a daughter who's a redhead, who is undoubtedly going to be bullied as a child in the near future when she reaches puberty. And it's going to be really awkward when he tries to console her in that aspect of life, being her father. Mad Max has been extremely vocal about being bullied himself as a kid for being picked on and made fun of, and for being Jewish. And I understand that plight. I relate to a lot of his lyrics, and I've always considered him one of my favorite underground rappers because lyrically, he's got skills to tell stories that resonate with me and kind of make me feel a certain way. They make me think. And that's what ICP's music does. So do I agree with things that Violent J does personally? No, I don't. But I'm not trying to get on a soapbox and rally a mob against him on a personal level to bring myself more attention, subscribers, people to buy my t-shirt. You know, so just like I'm not a fucking fan of these live streams that Chuck Reeves does with his homies, he's never invited me to join. I thought I was his homie. And I feel bad for Max because he's one of the most talented MCs I've ever seen. Or maybe not an MC, you know, because he even admittedly, you know, loses his breath when he raps live, and you know, but he's sick with his bars. So I don't know why he wastes his time like criticizing Violent J's whack performances, you know, when he himself is a struggling, starving artist that just wants to be successful. Ain't no one ever going to be more successful than ICP, and they've already made it fucking 20 years ago. So of course it's going to be a long fall from those heights. I just never thought I'd see it coming from actual juggalos. That's what I can't believe. So it's a lot easier to shrug off the outside hate, you know, all the morons that latch on to, oh, how do magnets work and that shit. Anytime somebody brings that up, I already know they ain't a juggalo. So their opinion doesn't matter. But when it's juggalos that feel like they need to make it their business to kick back against psychopathic because they don't like certain aspects or whatever have you, they don't like the new artists, it seems petty and it seems unfounded. Like there's really no fucking purpose to that, because they're going to keep shining and grinding no matter what, even if it isn't your cup of tea. You can fall out of love and you can stop enjoying music. I just don't understand. Well, I guess I do understand. I've always said it. You never really can walk away from this, especially not if you're aspiring to be somebody in the scene. So I guess that's the cool thing to do. But I know I'm going to see these guys at the Great Malenko show, and I don't know if they're going to be friendly to me. And I don't give a shit, because I'm not here to impress anybody. And I'm not here to rope people into being my family just because, we like the same music. We're allowed to be who we are. And that means that Chuck and Max are allowed to be bitter, hateful, jaded, self-hating juggalos. They're not the only ones. There's like 100 juggalos that are in my friends list that are salty as fuck. And it's not a good look, but they're doing it on their own free will. You know what I mean? They're feeling a certain way and they're letting everybody know how they feel, and they're allowed to. I don't want to live in an echo chamber. I don't want to just see everybody kissing each other's asses and it's all fucking puppy dog tails, and you know what I mean? Because that's not life. But it's hard to hear something that you don't want to hear. And sometimes it's tough to know when to speak up and when to just let it slide. You got to pick and choose your battles. And most of the time, these guys are just, they're picking on artists, they're picking on record labels, they're picking on decisions that Violent J made. So you can see their fixation, and it's really kind of like a hound dog in disguise situation, and they're free to do that. So I try not to get triggered over it, even though I fucking think it's stupid. I think they look stupid. And I'm not going to personally insult them. I'm not going to go out of my way and comment their shit. But Chuck actually comes into my live streams, and he comes and trolls our Facebook group. And I usually just ignore it, but I'm not ignoring it anymore. But I'm also not feeding into it. Right? Because if you watch him, if you've seen CPN and him have conversations, they're cordial with each other. They understand what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Chuck knows what he's doing. He's not respectful, and he's kind of mean. And we live in America, so he's free to be that way. But you know what? That's why we're marching, because juggalos are free to be the hot tub pissing, whoop whooping, fucking tattooed, drug abusing, free-minded, scrubbalo ninjas and ninjettes that we are. We're not gang related. And even if you are, that's something that you're doing on your own. It doesn't have nothing to do with the rest of the juggalos. No matter how much you hide behind the insignia and pretend that your little gang is our gang. And your little boys club of underground heads that all suck each other's dick, can fucking lash out in hate and anger to anybody else for not liking what you like or agreeing with you and all that. And that's how you want to roll. That's how you roll. So you keep doing you. I'll keep doing me. And I'm really looking forward to meeting up with my Juggalo family this weekend in Washington, D.C. I've kind of been telling a few people here and there, coworkers, I'm going to Washington, D.C. for the first time ever. Kind of pussyfooting around the fact that, you know, what I'm doing, because I don't advertise. I'm not the type of guy that needs to let everybody know what I'm thinking at all times. And I don't need to push my fucking interests in everybody's face. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't paint my face like a clown and hang out inside in front of the mall, you know, because I'm lonely for friends. My best friend and I, we went to clown shows for years without even meeting other juggalos. It wasn't until he moved to Florida and then I had to go to clown shows by myself, and I would bring certain people, and, you know, some people enjoyed it. Some people came once and never back again. Some people, you know, came to a few shows with me and they really dug it, but they didn't, like, you know, fall into it as intensely as I did. One of my homies did. He was buying all the albums. He bought a little Hatchet Man chain. He came with me to the 2002 gathering. And then as soon as the Wraith came out and they said the Carnival is God, he completely dropped it all. He was not down. You know, and his father was a minister too. So it's all very interesting, the way that we choose to live our lives. And I'm going to live my life the way I want to. And I'm going to continue to use Carnival Spirits as my forum to video blog and to podcast and to connect with other juggalos. And in a little bit here, I'm about to go pick up some poster boards, and I'm going to start making some signs. And I'm also going to do some live streaming today on Carnival Spirits Facebook page. So that's Spirits of the Dark Carnival on Facebook. I'm going to do some live streams while I'm making posters and signs, and just to you know, I guess raise awareness that we're going live this weekend, and so that's my plan for the day. And I felt like sharing the fact that I pulled 17 out of my bag of runes, and you know, I'm just getting all my ducks lined up. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm taking a road trip, and I'm going to go see ICP perform in Washington, D.C., along with a bunch of other artists. There's going to be some people speaking, talking about how they've been affected by this gang label. And I'm not really going to be paying too close attention to, you know, to people that are, you know, trying to take us down a peg, trying to throw salt in our game. I don't have time for it. You know? But I come here and I'm going to make time for you guys. So I think after the March, we are going to start having more guests on Carnival Spirits. You know, Reverend Last Right is welcome back again. We've talked about having snaps up on here. And I've reached out to a couple other people. You know, we used to do a lot of artist interviews, and you know, there's some artists that I want to interview and have chats with. You know, a couple local artists, and I might even actually have a chance to talk to some artists this weekend and maybe get them up on the live feed. And so who knows? You might be seeing, you know, Ouija Mac or Light or Suicide or Big Hoodoo on Carnival Spirits this weekend. Maybe Rude Boy, you know, Kevin Gill. I mean, we're all marching together. So we're going to see what kind of connections we can make. And yeah, so I'm going to stop this live feed and then I'm gonna scan through the chat and see what y'all have been talking about while I've been up here. Just for curiosity's sake. And if you're interested in hanging out with me while I make signs, make sure that you got your notifications turned on for Carnival Spirits or Spirits of the Dark Carnival on Facebook. And if I were you, I'd make sure that you have notifications turned on here on YouTube, because this weekend we're going to be live streaming on Facebook and YouTube at any given moment. It's going to be a long day. So with that said, check out CarnivalSpirits.com. We're building an archive of all the Juggalo artists and releases and interviews and seminars and footage and coverage, and we got a long way to go with that. But this is a passion project that Cali Green Too Fresh and I have been working on, and we haven't been working on it too much lately. So there's a lot of room for improvement. And I'll put it out there. If there's any Juggalos out there that are feeling this, what we're doing here on Carnival Spirits, and you want to be a part of it, maybe you want to help us with the web developing, maybe you want to be an admin on one of our social network sites like Twitter or Facebook, or maybe if you're a YouTube vlogger and you want to join Carnival Spirits, we're open to that. But you will have to go through an approval process, and that involves more than just me accepting new recruits. So my advice to anyone who's interested in that type of thing, I would say you got to make YouTube videos on your own channel so that we can see what you're all about. But there's already a handful of ninjas out there that I would love to have come aboard. And if only just so that more people can hear from them, because their subscriber counts are a little smaller than ours. And we have an opportunity to help people get a little exposure. Half of the Carnival Spirits crew I personally invited to join us because I was impressed by their videos. People like Panic 17 and DC Fago Guy. Ninjas like Cali Green Too Fresh and Don Chaos. They're OGs like me. They started when Scotty Two Balls invited us to join. So that's really it. I'm going to get up out of here. Oh, always remember to fuck the fuck off, motherfuckers. See you.